Let's go ahead and make a dovetail joint. All right, friends, so when we make our dovetail connections, our dovetail joints, you need to figure out what pieces you're going to use and how they interact with each other. So in saying that, what you'll need to do is you can use a marking gauge and you can set the depth of your marking gauge to the thickness of the lumber, or what I rather do, I like to take my pencil, set my boards so that one's on the table and one's butted up to it, and I can mark on one side, flip it around, mark on the other side, and that gives me the depth that I'm going to cut that dovetail joint. So now I know when I make some dovetails, I'm going to cut down to that level. So I'm going to do this on both sides here. So now I have my piece of lumber marked out. Now I want it to mark out my dovetails. Now you can do this with a gauge, or you can do this with an angle finder, or you can do it with a sliding T-bevel. You don't have to. So what I typically tell students to do is to not focus on having the angle perfect. I tell them to go ahead and draw some triangles. I usually start by saying draw 3 triangles with the points up. That way we're gonna cut these out. So we're going to, I like to color in what I'm going to remove. That way I don't cut something out that I shouldn't cut. So I colored those in. Now I can take a square and square those lines across the top edge of the board. Just like that and that. So now it's time to cut. We'll put our board in a vise. I like to use a dovetail saw or a back saw like this one. You can use a dovetail saw, but I really like a back saw because it has that stiff upper back. So now you're going to take your saw, and I start by making a little cut across, then I turn my saw to the angle. And I'm just gonna cut down to that line. So now you can go and cut the other one. Now I can come back and cut the other side of that angle. Now at this point, I like to get my coping saw in here and start halfway in the middle and cut to here. But remember, when you cut these, the blade angles down like this, but there's no angle this way on top. It's straight across because we want those tails lined up. We're gonna come halfway down on this angle, start cutting, and we're gonna turn, and we're gonna aim down to that point. We get that piece removed. Now we can come back down at this point and go towards the other side. Okay, so now I have a little bit left, so now I'm going to chisel that little bit out. And remember, when you chisel, you don't want to take all of it at once. You just want a little bit. All right, now at this stage, we're gonna take your other board, we're gonna line them up, and we are going to draw inside those. Now, sometimes it's hard with a pencil to do this. What I like to do is set this in the vise, and then just lay this on top, and it makes it a lot easier to do. But a marking knife is a little bit handier of a tool to do this with. You just make sure you're flush here and flush on the end. And like I said, a marking knife is a lot handier than a pencil. What you can do though is you can mark this side with a pencil, and you can break your lead. So if you can't get in there with a pencil and that's all you have, you can mark the one side, the narrow side. Then you can take it, move this up a little bit. You can take it like this, mark the wide side, and then you can just connect the dots from the narrow to the wide there, and so forth. Now, remember, you need to mark this for thickness. We need to know how far we're going down. So now we have there. Now these, you're gonna get your square again and mark these straight down. Yeah, I know.